Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
All right. What's going on? Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dale. If you're new to this channel, hit the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. In tonight's transmission, I'm going to be demonstrating the collapse of the Demiurge and how it's based on the gravitational velocity signature that is equated to the Fibonacci sequence of nature, which is the fingerprint of God that's activating the magnetic pole shift in real time. Now, all this is connected to the El Nino non-weather when you have the waters from the east collaborate with the waters from the west. So this is basically the embodiment of a physical and a spiritual transition that's taking place on the planet, because everything that takes place on the east, they're more proactive when it comes to spirituality. They're more meditating, they're out in nature. As to when you get into the west, it's all based on external stimulation when you're talking about monotheistic religion and going to these churches. So what you're seeing taking place right now is a form of right knowledge by way of the activation of the waters that's connected to these neutrinos that's collaborating with the liquid crystal polarization that's connected to the Metatronic overlay, right? Because one thing you got to understand about the carbon body is photovoltaic. And the reason that is because it's a liquid crystal. And a liquid crystal in itself, when it's activated, it manipulates the dualistic paradox, right? And it happens by way of a certain consciousness that's taking place on the planet. So it's not a coincidence that the great majority of all these floods that you're seeing taking place all over the United States and all over the planet on an international level is one of those things where it started, the inception of it started when we was at Stone Mountain, Georgia, right? On the 33rd parallel, and we was chanting, Atlanta is Atlantis, right? There's a reason for that. And then a day after that, that's when the flood started to take place. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, all this is metaphysical, but everything that you're seeing taking place right now was showing you the embodiment of a reset. I keep telling you guys, you got two different resets. You have an engineered reset, and then you're having a reset that's happening by way of nature and the cosmos. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we finna get straight to it. Get the likes up, share this video, because this is gonna be a masterclass session. And it's gonna show you the keys and the tools to basically get you out of the Metatronic overlay, what we call the Demiurge, right? So this is not only subjected to the fact that the Demiurge is collapsing, but you got to know how to escape the matrix as the matrix is basically breaking, right? So for everybody in the chat, put the collapse of the Demiurge in the chat. Put the collapse of the Demiurge, right? Because remember, I was telling you guys about the dome, right? The dome in itself is connected to a form of monotheistic religion, because I told you that Satan, who was God of the Bible, separated the intergalactic waters from the third dimension and created the firmament. The firmament is basically the embodiment of a spiritual cutoff. The spiritual cutoff is the Metatronic overlay that's encapsulated by way of time. So this is how they keep you stuck in a fixed position reality. They want to keep you stuck in time to extract your energy. They want to keep you stuck in time to extract your spirit and your soul, right? Because it's all a part of the trauma recursive system in a time loop. They want to keep you stuck in a time loop by keeping you stuck inside of the firmament. Now, one thing you got to understand, you know, there's a lot of things that's taking place on the planet on a galactic level, from a cosmic level, and from a multi-dimensional level. So you got sunlight for 3 days straight by the year 2025. One thing you got to understand about energy operates like tantric sex. And tantric sex has a tachyon energy. And those tachyons basically pulls in the frequency of the solar flares to where it's able to harmonize with the pyramids on the planet, and also the pyramid within you, which is the fire in the middle, which is the soul, right? So it's not a coincidence that, all these, celestial phenomena is taking place in real time as we get through this 7-year tribulation period, and when we're going to have the abomination of desolation, right? The activation of the 7 thunders is happening in real time. Like I said, you have an engineered reset, and then you have a reset that's being facilitated by the cosmos and nature. That's the diametrical difference. Now, there's a publication that came out. I seen this is on our Cubalines page. It says radar sees strange plasma bubbles over the pyramids of Egypt 5,000 miles away. Now, one thing you got to understand, I told you, pyramids operate on a tachyon energy. It's a form of metaphysical sex, right? Because what is a plasma bubble? A plasma bubble is a portal. That is a portal to take you to a different dimension of reality by way of a manipulation of the space-time continuum. Because when these cosmic UV radiation light spectrums start to hit the planet, these solar flares, what happens is it creates an influx of energy that speeds up the velocity of the planet. Like I said, it creates a gravitational velocity signature. And that velocity signature in itself is the Fibonacci sequence that's connected to the energy of these pyramids, right? So it's not a coincidence that the pyramids in itself, the great majority of them is made out of limestone, because limestone is a superconductor. It's a superconductor of electrical energy that is streamed down from the mental plane. So China's super radar detects plasma bubbles over the pyramids of Giza, right? Because the magnetic field in itself is being manipulated. And when the magnetic field is manipulated, it manipulates the artificial construct of time, right? Which causes time dilation. This is why they're saying all the days is speeding up. This is why they're saying that in the year 2029, we're going to lose up to 5 seconds according to the numerical sequence of the time system that they keep on this planet, right? So the timekeepers are basically losing their power. Who are the timekeepers? The timekeepers are the overlords. The overlords are the Archons. The Archons are the ones who control the 13 bloodlines of your so-called Illuminati. Those are the ones who cannot escape the firmament, because they don't have the ability to activate the flower of life. You have to have the biotonic frequency of the soul in order to escape, right? Because I told you, the fire in the middle is the pyramid. As above, so below. That creates a tachyon. When you look at the word pyramid, it means fire in the middle. That is the soul, Solomon's temple. So that means that you have to activate your Macabre in order to tap into the flower of life, which connects you to the Fibonacci sequence of nature, right? So like I said, you have to harmonize with nature in order to escape the firmament, because that's going to create a concentric spiral effect to where you're able to vaporize out of the system by way of tapping into the Zohar body, which is your etheric self. Now, like I said, when you have a manipulation of the Metatronic overlay, things like this happen, right? Just like in a movie that Jim Carrey played in. In the New York Post, giant dome that looks like an eyeball falls from the sky and lands on Indiana Street during storm, right? Not a coincidence, right? Because what you're seeing taking place right now is a form of a dystopia that is starting to crash. The house of cards are basically starting to fall. And the reason that is because you have these neutrinos, Holy Ghost particles, basically infiltrating the square, which is the demiurge, right? Because one thing you got to understand about the biotonic frequency of solar flares operate like a limitless pill, right? A limitless pill gives an amount of information to the planet in the DNA sequence of certain humanoid species that's connected to certain ecological systems. So there's a reason why you got to understand the embodiment of enlightenment, right? Because like I said, these solar flares, when they hit the planet, it hits the mind, and the mind is actually the ark. The ark is Noah's ark that operates on archangels or angles of light. Angles of light that hits the pineal gland. When you're talking about different states of enlightenment, that is connected to the three principles of instinct, intuition, reasoning, which is the precursor to enlightenment, to where you're able to activate the Christ consciousness. So you got to go through many different levels to reach the apex of your Zohar body. You got to go through the physical level, emotional level, the astral level, the mental level, the quantum level. And once you reach the quantum level, that's when you tap into the authenticity, which leads you to your purpose, to where you're able to activate the Christ consciousness. Because Christ consciousness is really the embodiment and the blueprint to basically manipulate the Metatronic overlay. That is the Sufi order of the sons of green light, that green energy. Green light has the ability to manipulate the illusion. Green light is connected to the Fibonacci sequence of nature. Green light is connected to the energy of the soul because it's associated with Tahuti, who was Thoth, who was also Enki. And it's also associated with Superman because, like I said, when you understand liquid crystal technology, these crystals has a piezoelectrical frequency to the point where it contains a pheromone, and that pheromone is a gas, just like kryptonite. We're going to get into that later. Now, this is how you know that the Metatronic overlay is basically being manipulated, because like I said, we're encased in time. The artificial time analysis mechanism is controlled by Archons, who is Yahweh, Yadabaoth. Yadabaoth is also associated with Chronos. Chronos is associated with the god of Saturn. Saturn is Satan in the esoterics. So when you're trapped by way of the energies of Saturn, that means that the moon in Saturn is the external hard drive, the planet Earth, that put an encryption over the planet. So when you start to see rainbows spiraling up, that's how you know the firmament is being manipulated. When you start to see rainbows going straight up, that's how you know the firmament is being manipulated, because it's no longer bending the photon light spectrum over the firmament. So when you look at the age of Aquarius, the logo of the Aquarian age symbol is going to show you a man with a pitcher of water. That is the cosmic transmission that's coming back to the planet to create an amalgamation of floods on the planet. So like I said, a lot of these floods are being engineered, but some of these floods is happening by way of the energy that's here, right? Because like I said, when you have these ley line grid systems being manipulated by way of these neutrinos, it's going to get rid of the net of Indria. The net of Indria is also known as the Draconian reptilian net, the net in itself. This is why they call it the planet, right? When you look at the suffix of the word planet, you got NET, because the net in itself is being used for soul entrapment mechanisms to keep you stuck here, right? They want to keep you stuck here as much as possible. This is why they're using artificial intelligence to suck up microscopic waves of energy and upload it to different cyber clouds, right? So a massive mushroom cloud with the glowing neon rings was stopped in the sky and left viewers speechless, right? This is what's happening. This is what's basically taking place on the planet right now. Because like I said, in the esoterics, when you break down the etymology in ancient Proto-Semitic language, Noah means mind, right? And the ark was the archangels, or the angels of light. The angels of light that's hitting the planet that's piercing the veil, which is the firmament. The firmament is the Metatronic overlay of the Demurge, right? The Demurge is the dark pocket of the universe that we're basically living in, because it's keeping us away from the galactic center. Because once we manipulate it with the green light, because the green light is the embodiment of truth. The more you speak truth to power, the more it's going to manipulate the system. The more these calamities is basically going to happen, right? So the pole shift in itself doesn't only take place on the planet. It's taking place within the body, because the body in itself is made up of 75% water, right? So if the waters is reversing on the planet, what you think is doing it to your genetic format, right? This is why you're having the propensity to go work out. This is why you're having a propensity to do something that's self-affirming, such as working out, reading, and meditation. That's because you're breaking out of the encryption of the Metatronic overlay, which is the square. When you break out of the square, that's when you think outside the box. When you think outside the box, that's when you become a god. When you become a god, that's when you take your time back. When you take your time back, that means time works for you. You don't work for time. You don't need no damn job, right? So this is what it's all about. It's all about taking your power back when you have the collapse of the demiurge. Because the demiurge, there's no evolution for the third dimension. There's no evolution for the fourth dimension. There's no evolution for these artificial constructs. These artificial constructs was created by Satan, who was God of the Bible, right? There's a reason why he took Jesus on Mount Sinai. He said, you can have all this, right? And the reason that is because God of the Bible is not the God of the universe. He is the God of the simulation, and the simulation is the demiurge. And the demiurge is your ego. So your ego is an emotion that's connected to everything that's basically material. So you have to eradicate the artificial concepts of the Metatronic overlay to escape this third dimensional reality. So that's why I said, the more you wake up in vibration, the more you speed up in vibration. You have to harmonize with the energies of the planet in order to escape by way of the heart and the mind. So the Earth's poles have shifted because dams move trillions of tons of water, right? Because like I said, you have two different timelines, an engineered reset by the deep state shadow government, and then you having a natural reset that's happening by way of the cosmos and nature. That's what you must understand, right? And I'm going to give you the tools and the resources in this video to show you the diametrical difference in between if it's something natural or if it's something that's being engineered by the puppeteers who was working for the archonic forces. Now, we're going to get into these floods. Now, remember I was telling you guys in the Keys of Enoch, it talks about how Nineveh shall be overthrown in Jonah chapter 3, verse 5, right? Nineveh shall be overthrown. Now, that solar eclipse that took place on April 8th, that created an X over the planet. But that went through 7 cities called Salem, right? Salem is an anagram for the word peace, which is salam. And then it also went through 6 cities called Nineveh, which is also equated to 13 geographical locations where the solar eclipse basically went through. And then you had, in the last 5 days from July the 4th to the 9th, at least 13 states in the United States have experienced flooding based on available reports and posts on X. These are the states: Texas, North Carolina, New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Massachusetts, Illinois, Virginia, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Iowa, Maryland, Wisconsin. All these is basically being flooded because the planet is being flooded with knowledge, right? We are the ones that's basically causing the interface transitions. We are the glitch in the matrix. We are the glitch of the simulation. We are the glitch in the demiurge. Everybody in the chat put the collapse of the demiurge, right? The demiurge is falling, right? So these are the intersections of the August 21st eclipse and the April 8th eclipse. But my birthday on October 14th is what created the ancient Alpha symbol. Anybody who is not telling you about these solar eclipses and is basically connected to all these floods and everything, they're giving you misinformation, right? Because one thing you got to understand, you had a record amount of rain. Right where the X is where I live at in this geographical location, right? Southern Indiana, Southern Illinois, Missouri. They had a record amount of rainfall about 4 months ago in this geographical area. Not a coincidence, because like I said, it's a tachyon energy that operates on a gravitational velocity spectrum to where it pulls in information from the magnetosphere, which is the mental plane, right? The mental plane that's being streaming down from a form of transmission and knowledge that's coming to the planet, right? So like I said, a lot of these floods are engineered, but a lot of them is happening by way of human consciousness. Human consciousness has the ability to manipulate physical matter, which causes calamity, which causes destruction. That is the ether. That's why I keep telling people ether is the embodiment of antimatter. Antimatter has the ability to cause creation or destruction. Antimatter, electrical energy, thermodynamics, hydrodynamics, resonant energy. And all these energies in itself is connected to the 4 basic elements. We're going to get into that as we get through the transmission. So scientists warn of doomsday tsunami is ready to strike. Now, I'm going to show you a video here for a second. All right. Everybody in the chat put collapse of the demiurge. Collapse of the demiurge. The demiurge is falling. Share this video, right? So now I think this is the video. Collapse of the Demiurge, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm gonna play this video, get your popcorn, because everything that you're seeing taking place right now, like I said, it can be engineered or it can be prophetic, but it's up to you to have the intuition. This is why in the beginning of the video, I said that everything as far as enlightenment is based on 3 principles: instinct, intuition, and reasoning, which leads you to enlightenment. Enlightenment is gonna lead you to the epicenter of Christ consciousness. I'm gonna play the video.
North Carolina, another, quote, once in a 100-year flood. In Chicago, a, quote, 1 in a 1,000-year rain event. That's all just this week.
China is grappling with widespread flooding after torrential rains struck parts of Shanxi, Chongqing, and Guizhou. Footage from state broadcaster CCTV shows people being evacuated by rescue teams on rafts and streets submerged with water. In Weinan, a city in China's northwestern Shanxi province, heavy rainfall began in the early hours of Tuesday, prompting authorities to initiate an emergency response. Floodwaters damaged a section of a national highway through the city, where about 50 meters of road was washed out. Authorities in affected regions have issued warnings for continued geological risks, including landslides and mudslides, as rain is forecast to persist in some areas.
A lot of this is operated by way of cloud seeding technology. Cloud seeding technology and frequency modification goes hand in hand, right? It's like, peanut butter and jelly, baby. Frequency modification and cloud seeding go hand in hand. This is how they're doing it. See, this is all connected to the technology that's connected to DARPA, right?
We're seeing just incredible new images from across our region of tonight's severe storms. Check out this ominous sight over Bowie. I want to bring in meteorologist Steve Rudin really quickly. Steve, what exactly are we looking at here?
It's a shelf cloud, and it looks really scary. It's the leading edge of a severe thunderstorm. That's what we had, often accompanying with gusty winds, heavy downpours. That's exactly what we had. What you see here is warm air rising and cool air sinking, and then you get this shelf cloud. Think of a hot air balloon. To get it to rise, warm air, that's why it goes up. Cooler air puts it down. So cooler air is more dense. That's why it's close to the ground. Then that warmer air shifts upward, and that's how you get the shelf cloud.
Yeah.
Generally not dangerous, but it is the leading edge of a severe thunderstorm.
Okay, the United States has just been rocked by 4 1-in-1,000-year rainfall events in less than a week. First, there was catastrophic flooding in Texas. Days later, Tropical Storm Chantal drenched parts of North Carolina, causing major flooding there. And then on Tuesday, rain pummeled New Mexico, causing devastating flash flooding and deadly flash flooding. And in Chicago that same day, 5 inches of rain fell in only 90 minutes, prompting multiple rescues. Now, all those areas are thought to have a roughly...
This is how you know that's engineered. But like I said, you do have the waters from the east coming over to the west, right? Not a coincidence. It's called El Nino non-weather.
0.1% chance of this major flooding happening in any given year. Officials at the nonprofit organization Climate Central say to see this many historic and record-breaking events over the course of 1 week is alarming, Justin.
Yeah, back here in the valley, we've been breaking a different kind of record. We're talking about heat. Thankfully, meteorologist Ginger Jeffrey says that we're starting to see a little bit of a downward trend here.
Yeah, now we're going to switch things out. All those record events were fueled by tropical energy. And, this year is one of the years that they said we're going to have increased tropical activity. In addition, there's this Bermuda high that's basically parked off the Gulf states, and that's just feeding all that moisture into Texas, and then it gets carried up into the Ohio River Valley. So, yeah, just torrential rainfall. Meantime, we've been dealing with that other summer extreme.
I'm sorry. I really am sorry for all the trouble.
It's terrible. And so just that last part of what we were describing, you keep hearing once in a lifetime, once in 100 years, once in 1,000 years. At this point, it's not anymore. It's just where we are. with the climate and the environment.
Ladies and gentlemen, prepare, because it's only going to get worse. It's going to get worse and worse. Prepare. This is why I say you got to get your emotions intact, because when the house of cards start to fall, you know what I'm saying, you can't have an emotional attachment to your house or your car, or when a great majority of these things basically get destroyed, you can't have an emotional connection to them.
Well, that will definitely wake you up. Lightning ripping through the skies over the DMV during tonight's severe storms. This is some new doorbell video from DC's Noma neighborhood. The lightning also grounding planes at Reagan National Airport. Take a look.
Whoa! Oh my gosh, I got that on camera.
A passenger on this plane caught a lightning bolt on camera as they were stuck on the tarmac. The woman says they were supposed to take off for Las Vegas at 4:30, but didn't end up leaving until 4 hours later.
Another thing, I keep telling y'all, stay off them planes. I keep telling y'all.
I'm going back inside.
And the torrential rain pummeling the DMV, leaving behind dangerous flooding and damage. DC Fire and EMS taking this video of a driver trying to get through the rushing water in Northwest. And check out the powerful winds. You can see it testing the limits of that person's umbrella there. The gusts also shaking street signs. I took this video right outside of our 7 News station here in Roslyn. But take a look at what was happening inside. Yeah, it was raining so hard and heavy that the water started leaking into our building. You can see it pouring down this stairwell to the parking garage.
Holy The rain moved in quickly, dumping buckets of water at the height of the morning commute. Sarah recorded her husband Mike with that white knuckle grip. The couple on the expressway southbound headed to close on their first home. They made it, but the flooding only got worse.
Careful, buddy, you're gonna flood out your car.
I stopped and the cops waved me through, and as I went through, I didn't take my foot off the gas at all. All my lights went on and the car just rolled to a stop.
Carrie Keeney was one of the drivers.
See, this is what we call the abomination of desolation, the great purification period. So the planet is going through a purging process, right? The planet is going through a purging process. Then, like, you got this right here. You got the scientists warn a doomsday tsunami is ready to strike. And then, you know, as they was talking about, a 12,000-year floods in 3 days. Not a coincidence. Everything that you're seeing taking place right now is a part of the process for the reset, whether if it's engineered. Then, like I said, you have cloud seeding technology. They're manipulating the atmosphere, right? They're manipulating the ionosphere, which causes negative charged particles to create an influx of rain. And then you also have an influx of energy underground. There's wars taking place in the side of Hollow Earth and Agartha and things of that nature that's also causing sedimentary rock formation, which causes the liquidation of the polar ice caps. So all this stuff, like I said, you can't just pay attention to what's taking place above you. You got to pay attention to what's taking place underground as well. The strongest nor'easters are being supercharged by the effects of the climate pollution, a new study finds, right? Everything spirals, right? I told you the Fibonacci sequence. Everything is going back into its original state. Hold on for a second. All right. Now, it tells you in this publication a rare space event will push Earth to its fastest spin on record this July and August. July 22nd and August 5th may break records. Now, one thing you got to understand, it's kind of like the same thing. You take a Lamborghini and you're going 150 miles per hour on the highway, and then you hit the emergency brake. That's what planet Earth is doing. It's going so fast, then it's hitting the emergency brake. That's going to create the magnetic pole shift. That's the most simplistic way, because like I said, Danimos is connected to the epicenter of planet Earth. they create an influx of energy. And that influx of energy operates on geometrical shapes. All right, for instance, like a corner is a 90-degree angle. There's a reason why when you see Freemasons, they feet be in a 90-degree angle, because a 90-degree creates an L. And the L was actually an L, which is a god, which is the derivative of Elohim. So the planet is actually positioning itself in 90-degree angles to where it operates off fractions of light that creates a form of electromagnetism to where the planet basically speeds up in vibration, right? Because there's a reason why you see apparitions in the corner. There's a reason why. That's because in that geographical area where the corner is at, there's an influx of energy there that is basically creating an influx of dynamos or atoms to where it's able to manipulate, physical existence. So the same thing happens when you're talking about the planet Earth, right? So the more the planet speeds up in vibration, you're going to be able to see apparitions all over the planet, not just in the corner. But like I said, the planet in itself is positioning itself from angles of light that travels down from 90 degrees. 9 degrees is the L. The L is the archangels or the angles of light, which is the Elohim. Understand that. So that's basically the metaphysics of it when you get into the esoterics of, dark occult knowledge and Freemasonry. So Earth has suddenly started spinning faster, causing days to become shorter. By 2029, we will witness a second being deleted from the clock from the first time in history. I said 5 seconds, but it's actually 1 second. But still, like I said, time dilation, right? You are basically trapped by time. The planet in itself, like I said, the cosmos is helping you taking your time back. Time is being manipulated because, like I said, they only had a 6,000-year dominion, so time is running out. Everything is speeding up in vibration for a reason. Dynamos create an influx of iron. Iron is what gives energy to the planet, which creates an influx of carbon dioxide, which is why you're going to see an amalgamation of trees and everything in nature start to have a bioluminescent glow. There's a reason for that, right? Because it's going through a birthing process. A birthing of what? The birthing of the seven thunders. The birthing of the seven thunders to where we reach the apex of the ninth dimension. That's why I keep talking about the vector codes. The vector codes is ninth dimensional knowledge. But it can only activate by way of a certain genetic format. Now, you got all these bears leaving Yellowstone. They going to Utah, right? Pay attention to nature. I told you the Fibonacci sequence is the fingerprint of God, and the closest thing to God on the planet are animals and babies, because they're able to see the quantum entanglement processing system because they can see the magnetic field. They can see the magnetic field, so they know when to go to higher ground, to go to lower ground, or basically to escape a certain geographical area. They know where to do that at because they can receive the transmission from the creator. They're connected to the creator, right? So you got all these bears migrating. Not a coincidence. Now I'm going to show you another video showing you all these cats. And there's other videos of ducks. They're basically migrating. There's all types of animals are starting to migrate because they know that something is going to be taking place big, right? I've been telling you guys about the big one. I've been telling you guys about the airplanes. I've been telling you guys about the earthquakes and the sinkholes and things of that nature. So I'm going to play this video for a second. Everybody in the chat put the collapse of the Demiurge because the Demiurge is falling. It's about that time, and it's happening in real time. Like I said, you got to pay attention to the animals. The animals is going to tell you and let you know that the matrix is breaking. The Demiurge is collapsing.
Did you hear about the huge mystery that all the cats in the state of Florida and in southern Georgia are traveling to Miami and gathering in this certain spot? It's baffling the scientific experts, and it's baffling the local city governors. They don't know what to do. And it's all the way, like I said, from Jacksonville, Florida, that is the most north of the state, and in Georgia, the cats are just leaving the homes. The ones that are domesticated, the alley cats are leaving, and they're trekking hundreds of miles all the way down to the south of the state. Scientific experts think that there might be some magnetic thing going on, like there's a magnetic epicenter there that's messing with the cat's brains, and it's causing them to
There's a reason why the cat has a reptilian eye, because like I said, most animals and all babies, they have a quantum entanglement processing system to where they're able to see the magnetic field, so they can see energy and frequency and vibration. They can see it. They have the ability to, because they're tapped into the creator. They're tapped into it.
Want to gather here, but look at all of these cats. And so local officials are going to PetSmart and asking them, hey, do you have any food that you can donate? Because we don't want these cats to die of a fatality death. They've tried to shoo them away at first, but the cats just keep coming back and coming back. And so I think.
So that's that. Like I said, pay attention to nature, pay attention to the animals, right? Understand their patterns and their cycles. Sometimes you just got to sit your ass down and just go in the backyard and just chill. Just chill and just pay attention to nature. Get you a glass of water, orange juice, eat some fruit, whatever you do that's basically self-affirming, just sit back and pay attention to nature, right? Those are your answers. But like I said, we live in the age of instant gratification. Ain't nobody trying to pay attention to nature. Everybody got to get up and go to work and all this other stuff. That's why I said, take your time back. That's how they extract your power. They keep you basically subjugated by time, because now you ain't got time to work out. You ain't got time to be in nature. You're supposed to be out in the sun, and they got your ass in front of a screen. You're supposed to be out in the sun during the time when the sun is producing B12, right? To where it's able to harmonize with your circadian rhythm that basically aligns your proprioception in your brain. This is why you're thrown out of balance, because the timekeepers, the Archons, are the ones who create this Metatronic overlay to keep you stuck here, right? It's time to break out of the box. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up, ladies and gentlemen. So Earth has a heartbeat. We already know that, right? Which is, there's a reason why Earth, when you look at it, it's an anagram for the word heart, and the heartbeat of planet Earth is actually the Schumann resonance. And the heartbeat under Africa, and it's tearing the continent apart to form a new ocean, right? This is what I'm talking about. The collapse of the Demiurge, because nature is starting to fight back. Now, this is a natural event. Things like this is natural, right? By the way, this happened in Idaho. I think this is about like a 15-mile crack, and it goes down about 4 or 5 football fields or something like that. That's how deep it is. And it tells you right here, this happened last night. A powerful 7.3 magnitude earthquake strikes Alaska, prompting tsunami warning, right? They're telling you, they putting it in the public domain. You can't make this up. And they also just did this in this publication. Did you know in remote Tasmania, Australia, is building a 33-foot steel monolith? So it's basically showing you a black box to basically be the timekeeper. Now you notice the number 33. The 33 is also equated to, Freemasonry and things of that nature. But they want to record, humanity's path to collapse, strong climate, political, and social data for future generations to learn from, right? Now, you got all this calamity on the planet. Now, this movie ain't came out yet, but I'm going to give a brief synopsis because I already know that the Fantastic Four is basically talking about the 4 basic elements. And the 4 basic elements which is earth, air, water, and fire, right? And those things collaborate with ether, which is associated with planet Mercury, which is why you see the Silver Surfer in the background, because the Silver Surfer is a form of quintessence. Quintessence is the dodecahedron. The dodecahedron that squares the circle when it collaborates with the 4 basic elements that's equated to the Fantastic Four, because the Fantastic Four are actually the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And the Silver Surfer is the messenger of the apocalypse. But the Silver Surfer is actually the embodiment of the 144,000, which is us, the chosen ones, who speak a certain truth from the heart. That's why the heart chakra is associated with Mercury. Mercury is associated with Thoth. Thoth is us. That's the spirit of Melchizedek that I keep telling people about. You got to understand this. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. They put it in the movies. The movies are nothing but they're nothing but dog whistles. They're telling you what time it is through the movies. But you got to understand the symbolism. If you don't understand the symbolism, you don't know what the fuck time it is. You thrown off, right? Pay attention to nature and pay attention to the movies. And from time to time, read some books. There's nothing wrong with reading books. Do not listen to 607 There's nothing wrong with reading books, because what books does, what books basically do, it activates your Akashic records. It helps you remember. Books is nothing but weightlifting for the brain. That's all it is. Because you got to be balanced when it comes to this knowledge and information and spirituality. You can't just be so fixated on spirituality that you're not doing the mental work, right? Because the books is what helps you remember. It activates the subconscious mind to where you're able to become a god. Just like in the movie Limitless, he said it works better. When you take the pill, he said it works better if you're already smart. That's exactly what he said. The pill works better if you're already smart. So if you're already intelligent and you're reading these books and you got these coronal mass ejections coming down to the planet, what you think is going to do to activate your genetics? What you think is going to do when it activates your Akashic records? Because you're basically programming your DNA with the information inside the book. But the information from the cosmos is a filtering process. It's going to filter out the bullshit, and it's only going to keep in the information that's basically going to help you harmonize and help you tap into your higher self. So I think I got another video for you guys. We're going to come back to the presentation. I had other receipts, but they wasn't trying to let me put them on public domain. Okay.
Breaking news, a major current in the Southern Ocean has just reversed directions for the first time in written history. Scientists say that this is going...
Like I said, this is the pole reversal. So like I said, the magnetic pole shift is not only subjected to the planet. What you think is doing to the water in your body? It's rewriting your DNA. You got to read this book called The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, right? The Fibonacci sequence, the positive electrical frequency of it is going to activate the macabre. The macabre is going to activate your flower of life. You're going back into rotation just like the planet. So that's why I had to show you that, you know, to let people know that, you know, this is taking place right now, you know. So everybody in the chat put the collapse of the Demiurge. I'm going to show you another video. The collapse of the Demiurge, baby. We in that time right now. And this is another video that shows you the clouds falling, right? And they just came out with a so-called thing called the nimbus. And the nimbus in itself contains the energy of Melamood, which is a radiance. And that radiance in itself has the ability to manipulate the atmosphere. So it's not a coincidence that the great majority of these clouds that you see are basically falling. I'm going to play the video. And I think this happened over somewhere in the Middle East, I believe. Everybody's confused, and you know, the clouds are starting to fall. The sky's falling. And when the sky falls, that's the end of the sleep spell. What is the sleep spell? The sleep spell of Kingu. The sleep spell of the moon. The sleep spell of the moon that works in synergy with Saturn. Not a coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm gonna play this other video for you guys for a second. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get back to the other video. We're gonna get back to the presentation at hand, because there's some more receipts that I gotta show you guys. Now, it says the Y-chromosome is vanishing. A new sex gene may be the future of men. All they're talking about is the activation of the X gene. Because I told you, in the inception of time, I really believe women, when they was able to perform parthenogenesis, right? Because Genesis means the origins and production of something. The origins and production of so-called black women, the indigenous women who have the prokaryotic cell. So the X gene in itself is what's going to turn you into an X-Men, right? So the reason that is you got to read this right here. Got it from the publication. So X is also known as the unknown. So this is when you're talking about the activation of the junk DNA. The X contains about 900 genes that do all sorts of jobs unrelated to sex, but the Y contains a few genes, about 55, a lot of non-coding DNA, simple, and then it says the master is identified as the, I don't want to say that word, in 1990, and it's starting a gene called the SOX9. The SOX9 gene is a key for the male determination in all vertebrates, which is talking about the rise of the Christ consciousness, although it does not lie on the chromosomes, right? Gotta be careful when you're saying certain words because they getting real picky on YouTube now. Now, hold on, I got another video for you guys. I'm gonna do one more video and then we're gonna get back to the presentation. All right. Oh yeah, well, I don't need this one yet. We're gonna come back to this. We're gonna come back to this. All right. Now we're going to get into the neurological faculties and the metaphysics of it. Now, your brain was basically hijacked, not by hackers, but by fear, routine, low-level survival. That's the animal mind. The animal mind, that's what the Metatronic overlay is basically all about, is to keep you stuck in a state of emotionalism, right? Because when they keep you in a state of emotionalism, what happens is, you know what I'm saying, it throws you out of balance. Because an emotional man is basically, you know, an illogical woman, you know, perhaps. An emotional man is an illogical woman, basically. So you have to keep your emotions intact. You have to be energetically balanced. So balance in itself is how you escape the Metatronic overlay. You can't have an emotional connection to ego and all these things that's connected to the three-dimensional construct. So the shift begins in the mind. You have to shift your mindset. You have to shift your frequency, right? Because when you change your mind, you change your vibration. That vibration becomes magnetism. That magnetism in itself is the activation of the amygdala. You don't want to shrink your amygdala, right? Because what's going to happen is you have to strengthen the frontal lobe cortex and live from the throne of reason. You have to command emotion. You can't be ruled by emotions, right? Because like I said, emotionalism from a man is a dangerous woman. It's an illogical woman. Take your power back by way of the mind. You have to shift your mindset. You have to shift your frequency. What's the 4 basic elements of the soul? Thinking, reasoning, understanding, and willpower. You have to have the willpower to get up and do something. You have to have the willpower to speak truth. You have to have the willpower to get up and do anything that's basically self-affirming that's going to put you in a state of evolution. You have to shift your mindset. Because this is why I said it all starts with you in order to create the cosmic convergence. We have to be on the same frequency. But in order to do that, you have to do the inner work. Now, it says right here, these are the things that basically control you in the Metatronic overlay, what we call the dome or the matrix or the demiurge. You're controlled by the fear of the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? Fear feeds the algorithm. This is why they be like, fear God, fear the Most High, fear this, fear that. Go to church. You hurry up and do this. You better hurry up and go vote. You go hurry up and go pay your taxes. Everything is operated by fear because it's an energy extraction. Fear feeds the algorithm. The media sells it and the system programs it and your amygdala obeys it. Take your power back. When you take your power back, you take your mind back. You take your mind back, you take your time back. Because when you take your time back, that's when you have the ability to create your own dimensional portal, your own multiverse, your own reality, right? You're not following a system. You're following the path of the middle way, what I call the path of Malakut, right? So, you know, so when you get into the systems of the basics of operating systems, reactivity over strategy, impulsive over vision, addiction to comfort, obedience to trends, doubt of self. Because when you doubt yourself, that's when you become the Antichrist, right? That's what this is all about. The demiurge is to trick you into believing that you're actually the body and not the soul, right? So they don't want you to reach the apex of your Christ consciousness, because you're going to be like, man, like, none of this matters. The house, the cars, none of this. This is all a part of the demiurge. It's all a part of the Metatronic overlay. Because when you have the ability and the intuition to see beyond the dualistic paradox, that's when you become a god. That's where human becomes God in the golden age. So this is why it's not a coincidence that they came out with this movie during the time of the Gemini-Uranus conjunction. It's all talking about Christ consciousness, right? So one thing you got to understand that, you know, Superman draws his energy from the sun, right? Because the carbon body in itself is photovoltaic. It has the ability to transmute gamma radiation into energy, gamma radiation into electricity, antimatter, which is the activation of non-ether. So a solar flare is a burst of cosmic energy. That burst of cosmic energy is going to activate that Kundalini serpent that strikes the pineal gland, which turns you into a form of a Christ, right? There's a crystal city inside, you know, Superman's headquarters, but the crystal city is inside your brain. Because like I said, when you have the non-noble gases, carbon, lithium, sulfur, helium, hydrogen, exon, radon, argon, and krypton. Krypton has a pheromone, and that pheromone has a gas. That gas is actually a form of ether, and that ether harmonizes with the crystals. The crystals in the brain is what activates the olfactory nerve. The olfactory nerve is where it helps you unravel the junk DNA that's basically inside the Bathari gland, right? The Bathari gland that's connected to the hippocampus layer of the brain. That's where you get all your spiritual gifts from. Levitation, clairvoyance, pyrokinesis, hydrokinesis, all that stuff. You can do all that by way of the activation of the minds. That's why I said a solar flare is the limitless pill, a symbol for unlocking human potential, heightened awareness, memory, focus, intuition, right? This is all talking about your DNA. You can basically become Superman. But like I said in the movie, they're telling you about the Metatronic overlay, and they want to keep you stuck inside of a dark pocket universe. They want to keep you stuck here by way of the nanosites. The nanosites is what connects you to the asteroid belt or the Van Allen belt when you're talking about light code lockdown. They want to keep you here to keep you encased in time. They want to keep you trapped in a box. When you break out of the box, that's when you become the god, right? And that's what they're afraid of. So Japan breaks world internet speed records, 1.02 petabytes per second, enough to download all of Netflix in 1 second. Everything that technology can do, we can do that same shit. I keep telling you. Solar flares is basically the cosmos taking the limitless pill, right? Because 1 gram of DNA from a person who has neuromelanin, 1 gram of DNA from a person who has neuromelanin is basically 1 petabyte. That's enough data space on everything on YouTube. That's how much DNA or how much data that your DNA holds. But you have a lot of NPCs here who are connected to the Metatronic overlay in the Demiurge. They have the Hope Field Network. The Hope Field Network, that means that they don't have enough storage data to get the information from the sun, right? They don't have enough storage data, meaning that there's no evolution. They have a capped consciousness. The Canaanite has a capped consciousness. That's why they stop at 33 degrees. When really, when you connect it to the non-ether, there's 720 degrees of information. Non-ether activation, the vector codes. Nose itching. So it tells you right here, scientists discover a new creature that exists between life and not life. Interesting. But anyway, these apparitions that they're basically speaking about are Archons. And these creatures and these Archons are the ones who control the Demiurge. They want to keep you stuck here. They don't want you to break free from the Matrix. These are the entities and the apparitions that control the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati, right? That's connected to all international governments, all, forms of the United Nations militarized forces. These are the groups, right? So that's why I said you have to be very meticulous. You can't let the Metatronic overlay, the Demurge, basically keep you in a state of illusion. You can't let them trick you. That's what archonic forces are. They're tricksters. They're tricksters. They're tricksters that put people in front of you who are actually actors. There's a reason why Donald Trump has a Hollywood star. He's an actor. And he could possibly be a draconian reptilian. I'm going to show you this video that demonstrates that. Because there's no reason why you should have this over your skin, why your skin is being manipulated like that. It's almost to the point where they're trying to hide their physical form because they know that the Demiurge in itself has the ability to expose everything in our three-dimensional reality. Because, neutrinos in itself have the ability to, hold on, let me get the video up. Neutrinos have the ability to manipulate the liquid crystal polarization because liquid crystals, that's the technology that draconian reptilians use to bend the photons. They bend the photons to give off the illusion, the illusionary perception that they're actually a human when they're really not. So I'm going to play this video.
Well, get more aggressive. Yeah, the tariffs are going to go on and other sanctions go on.
Like I said, the veil is lifted, the house of cards is falling. You can only manipulate shit for so long. And it looks like a button right here too. Look like he got like a little button he's hiding, that maybe like a little teleportation button. I don't know. Watch the movie They Live because it basically shows them they got like a watch they use and they're able to teleport. So I don't know if this could be something. I don't know. All speculation. But like I said, nonetheless, this is weird. Everything that you're seeing right here taking place with Donald Trump saying, this is weird.
Target Moscow. Target Moscow. Should Zelensky target Moscow? No, he shouldn't target Moscow.
All right. So like I said, the house of cards is falling. It's time to wake up, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up, baby. Everybody in the chat put the collapse of the demiurge again. Because like I said, we have to use our magic. We have to speak our truth, right? If we want it to collapse, we have to speak it into existence. Write it into existence. Right? Donald Trump is an actor. So when you have the house of cards falling, this is why you're going to have certain delay systems. They having a delay of, 911. They having the delay of weather modification and all this stuff. They're not going to tell you about what's going to be taking place. Like I said, they're trying to blindside you, right? Because it's going through a purging process. This is their great purification, but they're doing it from a tyrannical level. They're doing it by way of, asymmetrical warfare. So that's why I say you have to keep your energy high. And then you also had about 2,000 NASA employees resign for no reason, right? Reasons unknown. Not a coincidence. So I'm going to give a brief synopsis and a rundown over the transmission. Now, the dome in itself, like I was telling people, the dome is basically the firmament. The firmament was created by the God of the Bible, who was also known as the devil. And it's also in the Gnostic text, he is also known as Yadabaoth, who was also associated with Yahweh, which means agreeable and disagreeable. So that means that the God of the Bible separated the intergalactic waters from the third dimension and created the firmament. The firmament is a spiritual cutoff. So now you're being trapped by time. When you're trapped by time, that means you're trapped by the matrix. When you're trapped by the matrix, that means you're being trapped by Saturn and the moon, because Saturn and the moon is the external hard drive of the planet Earth. It's a quantum satellite to keep you stuck in an artificial time analysis mechanism. They want to keep you stuck in time to suck up microscopic waves of energy from your body and upload it to the supercomputer on the dark side of the moon that controls the binary code system of the matrix. They want to keep you here because, like I said, it's an energy extraction. because the moon is nothing but a artificial portal for reincarnation purposes, right? So the energy of the sun has the ability to manipulate the Metatronic overlay. Neutrinos collaborating by way of tachyon energy is creating plasma bubbles over the pyramids of Giza over in Egypt. And plasma creates portals, and portals manipulates the space-time continuum. And when the space-time continuum is manipulated, that's when the sky starts to fall. But it's happening by way of, 3 different energies of enlightenment: instinct, intuition, and reasoning, right? Those are the elements of the soul that's connected to it. And the more we start to wake up, the more things is going to happen. Pay attention to nature, pay attention to the animals. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll talk to you guys for a second. My apology for the other night. I will not be hosting no more, debates on my channel. And like I said, it was one of those things where I was using my platform, for 607 and for Phase to get things off their chest. And I had a couple things that I wanted to address with, 607, but it wasn't one of those things where I was trying to debate them. It was one of those things where they had the dialogue and, in order to get clarification for the audiences or whatever. And unfortunately, like I said, the video got removed. So never doing that again. And I also got something coming up with Yaki Awaken this month, July the 29th. He keeps moving stuff around, but like I said, he's a very, very much a busy man. He's a doctor and everything, a licensed doctor, and he's, doing all types of, holistic healing, and he has a lot of stuff to do. So I'm very grateful for him to, think of me while he's doing all these things, and he's, in the process of still being on tour as well. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys for watching this video. But in order to escape the Demiurge, you have to get your power back. You get your power back by taking your time back. You take your time back, that's when you become a god. You can't become a god by serving somebody else, serving a system, going to work and things of that nature. Take your time back. Take your power back, right? This is the time you're supposed to be creating, right? That's what makes you a god. See, the archonic forces, they're ruler gods. They're not creator gods. So this is why they use artificial intelligence to extract our essence, because we can create. So you have to create a system for you to where it puts you in a state of evolutionary forms of mastery. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this video. End of transmission.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Man, my auntie passed last night. This is a sad life, I'm trying to get my cash right. Past bright, yeah, I'm shining like a flashlight. Trying to take off quick, might catch a fast flight. I'm mad tight, shitting on her with my ass wipes. Staying away from old friends, they all seem fake to me. Hating me, cause I'm getting dough just like the bakery. I'm tired of a mediocre life. I got hopes of Mike's fiend smoking pipes. It's the second song that I wrote tonight. Haters smoking spite. How we got such a focused sight. I done flirted with death. 98 was the birth of the best. Grass cut from the surface I met. Rhymes I steadily spew. My hope will never be through. When it's all said and done, they'll remember me too. Life's a trip, regardless if the lace is tied. I'm spitting dope on my listeners, I make them high. The media got your brains baked and fried. Great supply, take your eyes and replace them with the ancient lies. I'm too cold, I spit hot. New flows for hip hop, a few shows and get guap. New clothes, no wristwatch. I don't really care about your materialistic. Spazzing in the booth from iller than venereal sickness. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Gotta count my blessings, even though I'm daily stressing. See, my brain is a weapon, I can use it for protection. Used to take dabs off the rip like collections. Flows very often relative to beat selections. Block your number, cut you off, I hope you get the message. Hold the mic close to me like it's supposed to be. Haters act like they don't notice me, but I'm too